Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. It's been a while since I've done any videos on my indoor hydroponic systems, especially the AeroGarden. So today I'm going to give you guys a quick update to show you what I'm working with and what I'm working on. But also at the same time, I just wanted to update my friend Chris, the person who created the MTN GrowStation here, to show you how the unit has been doing and what's going on with it. So this is the MTN GrowStation developed by Chris in Norway. I did a review video of this recently. He made this from scratch using 3D printing and gifted this to me as a gift. And I've been using it for a while, and it is an amazing unit. It's been working great, and I just love the what it can do in here. And the light is very powerful. So right now it is actually set at 40%, because if I set it to 50% or 60 or higher, it'll just burn my plant. Also today we are going to answer some questions about like grow units like the AeroGarden or the MTN GrowStations or anything that are similar. So I have 10 questions that I have selected. I've answered these many times before, but sometimes people don't go back to the old video, so I thought I'll just do it again so that you guys can see the most current version. So here's what I have going on. This is one of my AeroGarden, and I love using these units to start seedlings and start small plant before I put them into the actual grow tent. That way I don't use the full power of the grow tent, and I'm just using these for starting seeds and starting plants, get them to the size they need to be transplanted, and then I would take them and put them into the real permanent spot. So that's what I'm doing here with these cucumbers. And the MTN GrowStations developed by Chris. Again, it is an amazing unit, and it is much more powerful than the AeroGarden. So it can do much more as far as growing plants that require lots and lots of intensity, light intensity. So here I have my all-time favorite pepper variety. This is the Gangster White Thai, and I'm growing this from seed in this unit, and it is doing amazing. The one crazy thing that I want to report to you guys so far in this unit is that I have zero, and I mean zero, flower drop so far on this plant. And that is very unusual, because when I grow the same plant in the AeroGarden, I get lots and lots of flower drop. And even with the flower drop, there's still lots and lots of fruit, so it's really not a big deal. But I just want to point that out, because that is one of the biggest issue that people experience when growing in units like this, or hydroponic or cracky method or something DIY and all that stuff. So anyway, I normally set the light to around, you see there, 1 to 2 inches above the plant, especially for peppers, because peppers love intensity. And the AeroGarden unit, I think the wattage is 40 watts, so it's not very strong. So if you put it too high, the plant would start reaching, and then you're gonna have a really skinny plant, and it's just gonna be stretchy. So that is how high I keep it, and that is actually one of the questions, so I'll go back to that quickly. So here, let me show you. This is the Gangster White Thai. Lots and lots of fruits, guys. There's these flowers are beautiful, and they smell amazing. See, here's the little flower that became a fruit, and everything is going great. I think I might have topped this plant when it was young, because usually when I grow in units like these, I like to keep them small, because they're better, that way it's easier to manage, and then the branches don't go all over the place. And if the branch happen to come out of the unit, it's not going to get adequate light, and it's going to keep stretching and stretching, and then it's not going to be any good, because if it does produce any seed, I mean, it's not seed, flowers or pod, the pods are going to look really strange and because it's not getting light. So I normally cut those off anyway. So trimming is a great idea when you grow in systems like these. It just keeps them small and manageable. But also because I keep the light very low like this, it also helps with keeping the nodes very compact. See, this one I did not top. Look at that. Look at how compact that plant is. So another issue with growing in systems like these is because is when the leaves get enormous. You see how big the leaves are, and what it does is it shield and shade the bottom area from getting any light. And so if the branches that are growing within these, I guess the undergrowth, it's not going to look healthy. It's not going to look strong, and it's probably not going to do much. And so a lot of the times what people do is they'll cut all those off and clear it all, because all these down here, the branches, they're being blocked. And what they're going to do is they're just going to suck the energy from the main plant, and they're not going to do anything. So that's why often you see the bottom layer all bare. And that is the thing with growing inside and also growing in hydroponic. Because of the intensity, the light cannot penetrate in all sides, so it can't get down to this sections. So these are like basically, see those branches in there? They're basically dead weight, so they're not going to do much. So clear those out is usually the best option. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the questions. So the first question is, what is your light cycle? So my light cycle is 10 hours a day. It doesn't matter when you turn it on. Just set the timer to turn on and then off in 10 hours. And then it just repeats by itself. I usually turn it on at 7 a.m. and then it runs for 10 hours. Then it will turn off by itself. And then it'll come back on again. And it does that all over again. The next question is, what is the pump cycle? And for the AeroGarden, you can actually set the pump separately. So what I do is I set 1 hour on, 1 hour off forever. So that's how it is. This system here, you can either turn on the pump or off the pump, so it runs forever. So it's on all the time, 24/7. And this one here turns on 1 hour, off 1 hour perpetually. So it keeps going in on and off by itself. You can do 1 hour on, 1 hour off, 1 hour on, 2 hour off, 1 hour on, 3 hours off. It does not matter. There's enough oxygen in there that has been generated by the pump while it's on to keep the plant, to give it oxygen. So there's no issue at all. Even without oxygen, without the pump running for longer than that, because what happens is the AeroGarden, it doesn't, it's not a standing still unit. It actually sucks the water up into this layer and it falls back down. So it comes up and comes down, come up and come down. So that in itself already generates enough oxygen bubbles in the water to keep the plant just fine. So even if your pump is broken or whatever, it's no issue because the water comes on like this. It comes up and it drips down, come up and drip down. System like these here, where it's a reservoir and there's no moving parts, moving water. So if your pump happened to be broken, the plant would still be fine even for like up to 5 days. Sometimes when the water level is low, the top layer, you see those roots right there? You see those hairs? Those are actually your air roots. So if you don't submerge those roots underwater and with the pump broken, the plant will still be alive, no problem. You see, even see my pump is on right now, but when I close it, there's a layer of roots, this much here, that are above the water. So if the roots are not submerged, those roots can breathe, and the plant would be just fine. Okay, so the next question is the AeroGarden plant food, this here, enough to grow most plants without anything to add to this? And the answer to that is yes. That is all you need. All you need is this, and you can grow most plants. I've grown peppers, cucumbers, tomatoes, all the herbs, and all the good stuff. So the AeroGarden is plenty enough. But if you happen to use other nutrients, that leads me to the next question. How often do you change your nutrients? So again, this question is tricky because it really depends. Because when you fill up the reservoir of this unit and your plant is this big, it's not going to drink anything or do anything to the reservoir for months, for a long time. So there's no point changing it. The plant is too small. It's just growing. It's not going to be affected. So I usually leave the reservoir for a very long time when the plants are young. At this age here, you see how big that is and how full. It's going to drink a lot. It's going to drink the whole reservoir in a few days, like 4 to 5 days. And in that instance, what I usually do is I'll refill. I'll just keep adding, and then let it run for a few more days, and I'll add about 2 to 3 times. After that, I'll change it out completely for fresh nutrients, and that is the best for me because it takes less work. But if you want to be super careful, make sure everything's great. When the plant is this size, refill one time and then change it out for fresh nutrients, and that would give the plant the best way to produce fruits without flower drops, without all the issues. Because what happens is if the plants keep drinking, and then you add more nutrients and it keeps drinking, and you add more nutrients and keep drinking, what it does is the plant will take only what it needs and it just leaves the rest behind. It doesn't need those. And when you add new nutrients, it mixes with the old, and the old are stuff that the plants don't use, and then eventually it becomes out of balance, and then your plants are going to start to struggle, and then it will cause flower drops. It's going to cause possibly diseases at the roots and stuff like that because your nutrients are not fresh. So change it out often and make sure it gets fresh batches of nutrients. That way your plants will be healthy and strong. Okay, so the next question is also about nutrients. What other nutrients can you use in the AeroGarden unit besides the AeroGarden plant food? And I have used this product, DynaGrow. I've used Masterblend. I've used the Flora series and all that stuff. And I actually like the DynaGrow series the best, the DynaGrow and DynaBloom, instead of the Masterblend. And the reason for that is Masterblend is a granular nutrient. So what that means is you have to mix it with water, and then the grains, the dry particle has to dissolve. And Masterblend usually doesn't dissolve all the way most of the time, so it leaves little granular particles in the system. And what that does is if you have moving parts, it has to run around, and it could potentially get stuck in there and all that stuff. So I normally like to use liquid stuff. So liquid nutrients are the best option for units like this that has running parts. That way nothing gets stuck and all that stuff, and the liquid is already dissolved. It's easy to use. Just mix it with water and you're good to go. So I stay away from the dry hydroponic stuff that has to dissolve. So when you use the DynaGrow, there's also a DynaBloom. So the grow is when the plants are growing, the vegetative stage right here, like right now. You see now it's starting to produce flowers right there. There's flowers. So now is when I switch to bloom. And what that will do is it will help the plant focus its energy on producing the flowers and keeping it. And that is just better for the plant. So they're formulated for different stages of the growth. So you see there's all these flowers right here. So that is when I start using bloom. So when you see flower forming, if the plant is small, like this small, and it has flowers, don't worry about it. You can still use bloom. But when you get to the full size that you want it to be, like this right here, I want it to stop growing and I want the flowers to stick. Same with this, I can switch to bloom. But that doesn't mean you can't use grow the entire process. You can. I've done it many, many times before. It's not ideal, but you can. You can use grow the entire cycle from seeds all the way to producing fruits. So if you don't have grow, you don't have bloom, then don't use it. But if you do have it, then switch, because it will give the plant the best chance to produce better fruits. Okay, so that I already answered the next question. Can you use Masterblend in your AeroGarden? Yes, you can, but I don't recommend it because you have to dilute it. Not dilute it, but dissolve the grains and all that stuff. So, okay, and then number 7, do you check pH? pH is actually really important when you grow plants in hydroponic. For me personally, I just never check pH because I really don't care. I just don't want to spend more time than I need to do something that, I just want to keep it fun. So checking pH, it could take a lot of time because you got to mix your nutrients, and then you got to get the meter and you got to check it, and then you got to recheck it every few days or so to make sure the pH is on the same level. And it is important, as I mentioned, because at the right pH level, the plant is able to take up all of the nutrients that would keep it nice and healthy. There's a pH chart. If you Google it, you will see. I think it's between 6.3 to 6.5. That is the optimal pH level. But for me personally, I don't check it. I just mix my nutrients and let it run. And is that a good idea? No, it's not a good idea. But does it work? Yes, it worked. I've done it for many years, and I don't check pH. But don't take my advice for that. pH is very important. Okay, how do you keep your plants from growing outside of the unit? And again, I think I answered that earlier. Keep your light as low as possible when you're growing peppers or tomato. If you're growing tomatoes, make sure it's a determinate variety, not indeterminate, because indeterminate will never stop growing, and it will just grow outside of the unit, and you can't stop it. It's not supposed to be growing in small units like this anyway. So grow determinate. Or pepper varieties. Pick a varieties that are not large growing, but you can grow any variety. This is a Chinense variety. That is actually a Fatali, and this is a white Thai. And you can see I control their growth very well. So you can trim. Definitely you can trim if you want to keep it nice and short. But the main thing is to give it a sufficient intensity from the light. So keep it as low as possible, right on top. Even if the leaves touch the light hood, it will not burn, because this is not very strong. As this here, it will burn because it can go up to 100 watts. So I reduce the intensity to 40%, and I keep it nice and low to keep it short and healthy and strong, and inside the unit more controllable. Okay, so next question is actually a question that has to be answered in so many ways. Why are my pepper flowers dropping? And I have answered this question so many times, and it depends. In hydroponic, there are so many different reasons why your flowers drop. One reason is imbalance of nutrients. There's something wrong with your nutrients mix. The plant is not getting what it needs, then it would drop flowers. Another thing is if your pH level is out of balance. Again, it goes back to pH. pH is very important, because if you at a very acidic level, and that prevent the roots from taking up the nutrients, then the plant becomes deficient. And if your pH is too high, the same thing. It can only pick up a certain type of nutrients, but then it's lacking the others. So then it is imbalanced, and the plants will not get what it needs, and it becomes deficient. So it has to drop the flowers, because it's not getting the right nutrients to stay healthy. Another reason is you're feeding the plants too much nitrogen, and what that means is the more nitrogen level is in the water, the more the plants will try to take it up to grow, because nitrogen will assist in growth. It'll just keep growing, and in order to do that, it will drop the flowers to grow. That's how peppers are. There are stages that it goes through. Once it starts to fruit, the energy get focused on fruiting and creating flowers and creating fruits. So when that happens, you will notice that your pepper plants will stop growing, because the energy is all being used to produce fruits and flowers and stuff like that. So realize what stage your plants are in. Make sure you mix the right type of nutrients to give the plants what it needs in order for it to do well at that level. So right now, as I mentioned, I changed everything to bloom because the plants are blooming. So if I use a higher concentration of nutrients, like for the nitrogen, then my plant here, for example, would drop those flowers that it has, and it's going to continue to grow and grow and grow. And with this one here, it's a little bit too late, but then it may try to grow and also would drop flowers. So that's why. Again, another one is you may have pests, like there are mites that you can't see, and the mites will suck on the sap of the flowers, and it'll damage the inside, the plant itself, and then it stresses it out, and then it eventually would drop the leaves. So make sure your plants look healthy. It's very easy to tell when your plant is unhealthy. The plant itself will tell you. When you look at this plant right here, you see how happy that looks? It's nice and green, and the leaves are dark, and it just looks healthy. So the plant is telling you right there that I'm doing fine, I'm healthy. But if it has like yellow signs, the leaves are wrinkled, and it turned over and stuff like that, there are some problems. So the plant itself can tell you what the problem is. You just have to learn how to read those signs. And I learned to do that by experimenting and growing so many things and over the years. And I watch for signs, and that's how I learned from it. Okay. So those are the simple things. Also temperature can also affect how your plants grow, and if it's dropping flowers. If your grow room is super hot, like 90 degrees Fahrenheit and above, it's going to start to stress, because peppers are tropical plants. They do enjoy the temperature between 75 degrees to 80 degrees. That is the optimal temperature. 85 is fine, but when it gets up to the 90s to 100 degrees, then it's going to start to have problems. So watch the temperature. Also, if there's a huge fluctuation of temperature, like for example 5 to 10 degrees, like say in the morning in the afternoon you have like 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and then at night it drops to 60 degrees, the plant is going to freak out and it's going to drop, because that's like a 30 degrees difference. And in some places you will have that. And just try to maintain a consistent temperature level, and that will give you your plants the best chance to not drop flowers. Okay, so the last question is, how high should I leave the light hood? And I already answered that question. Actually, like 1 to 2 inches above is fine. 3 inches is fine, and that should be you also can watch for signs, because if your plant the leaves at the top will look burnt, that means the intensity is too high, too hot, and too much. You can raise the light hood, or you can lower the intensity. So watch for signs. But for the AeroGarden, for sure, you can leave it 1 to 2 inches above the plant, and it should be just fine. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. And if you have more questions about these units, you can just leave them below, and maybe I can do another video answering all these questions again, or maybe you can save it and join me on some of the lives that I do and then ask questions there. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.